bastards. This is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I want to talk about something that is often overlooked by preppers, and perhaps for a few things it's been talked about, but if we're really going to in depth about the next subject, you will realize how important this specific plant is. And I'm talking about the stinging nettle. I will talk about 3 points in very depth about how to make rope. I will show you how to do that. I'm gonna show you how to make nettle tea and what the benefits of them are for nutritional value, and also as a third, the medicinal parts of it. So in those we're going to in depth. But first, I wanna first talk about some minor points about why stinging nettles are good for your preparedness. Well, we all know most people see stinging nettles as some a weed in your garden, but actually, this is a very, very good plant to have. And even if you do not have them in your garden, if you're going to forage around, you will definitely find them. So, especially here in Europe and in Belgium. So, it's a very important plant. I will talk about the rope, the nutritional and the medicinal parts later on, and I will show you it. But first, I want to talk about how what other things you can do in your preparedness, but I am not over there yet to make such things, except for a few, but I will not show those. The first of all, uh, stinging nettles were a substitute for cotton. Yeah, just as the fibers that you get out of it, like for making rope, people like in Scotland and during World War One, in Germany during the shortages of certain goods, they turned the fibers into linen, and yeah, that's a substitute for cotton. And that's not the only thing they could do with that. They could not only make clothing with it, they also make paper, fishing nets, cordage, and yeah, that's those are the things that they did with it. So it's a very good plan if you wanna live off grid, if you want to make your own linen clothing and other things like I just said. So that's a very good thing about stinging nettles. The next thing is for the garden itself. Stinging nettles have some properties that are very good if you're going to grow your own vegetables or nutritional. How do you say this? Those plants that give calories, like corn, uh, potatoes, rice, and such. So, what can you do for with nettles about that? Well, nettles, stinging nettles can be used as a liquid feed for your gardening. What do you do? It has a lot of nitrogen-rich nettle feed, as I like to call it. What you do is you take the stinging nettles, you crush them into very small pieces, and you let it wait into the water for 3 to 4 weeks, a month, let's say, and then you dilute whatever is inside of it. It has now submerged with the water, and whatever is inside of it, you take 1 part of those for every 10 parts of water to dilute it, and that way it's like I said, liquid feed for your gardening. It's like it's like liquid compost. So that's something very good to about that. Next, you can also use it for pest control in 2 ways. Um the first one is, I don't know, it's kind of difficult for the English name for it. Bloodlouse, aphids, aphids. So those little green bastards that eat your that nibble on the green of the leaves of the plants. Those things. You can try to make it around your garden, because those aphids will first go to the stinging nettles if it's around your garden, like your potatoes and other corn and other plants like that. So yeah, like I said, they will go to that first, and it's like a sacrificial plant to almost to say. But the next thing could also benefit in this. So it's like in 2 parts. Stinging nettles are a very good breeding ground for ladybugs. And what do ladybugs do? They eat aphids, bloodlouse, and yeah, that's also a way to get rid of them. So yeah, stinging nettles are very good in that way. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about the minor points. Now I'm gonna show you 3 ways that are the most beneficial about stinging nettles. First, I'm gonna show you how to make cordage out of stinging nettles in the next clip by the power of editing. Pew. Alright, so now we are going to make rope out of the stinging nettle. One thing I wanna show you, just for a curious thing. You see that there are ants with aphids around it. So yeah, this is what I talked about sacrifice plants. But remember, if you can see, the ants are leaving the aphids alone. Why is that, do you think? Well, just a small interesting thing. The ants are milking some sugary water from the aphids like a cow. So it's like a symbiotic relation that they have. They protect the aphids in exchange for those things. But that's just a little side point, and we are not National Geographic. So if you want to make rope out of a stinging nettle, what do? You first remove the leaves. Yeah, it's not that many that I wear gloves, but whatever. You take the leaves and I'm going to hold them for the making nettle tea later on. What you can do is just get it off like that, get it into the side of a container, and that way you can try to take them off till you have this clean shaft of the how do you call it, the stinging nettle. What do you do next? First of all, cut off the roots. And if you're going to cut off the roots of how do you say this, a stinging nettle, I would advise do not put this into your compost, because otherwise it will grow out of your compost, and that's not really what you need. So put everything from the stinging nettle into your compost or liquid feed, except the roots of the stinging nettle. What's the next thing that you do? Well, first we need to flatten the shaft of the stinging nettle. Like, you can do it by standing on it, you can do it with a brick, you can do it with your thumbs, but I'm going to do it with my knife. You can hear it kind of cracking. So that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. This will take a while, I guess. You wanna try to make it as flat as possible so that the fibers are getting a little bit apart. So that way it'll be later on easier to remove the fibers from the stinging nettle. Especially at the parts that you will see in a moment, the segments that you see every 10 centimeters. So yeah, this will, you can. How about preparation, some Belgian pepper? Good idea. That will make the video less long. I'm gonna try to do it a little bit faster, so it perhaps will not be the most greatest of ropes for making a rope out of a stinging nettle, but it will be sufficient if you want to make a makeshift shelter during a bug out or any other survival situation, like when you're stranded with a plane. So, as you perhaps can see, now we have flattened the shaft a little bit. What I prefer to do is now cut it in two. So I'm gonna take my trusty old clock knife, and I'm gonna cut this effing shaft in two. Be very carefully about when you come to segments, because at the segment is a little bit holler, and then you have the chance that your knife will go a little bit round and you will lose some possible cordage about it. I'm gonna take this off because there's no more danger for stinging. So now you have split something into, you will feel a natural splitting into the fibers of the stinging nettle. And beware that it will not always be the most, how do you say this, the most, it will not always work. Every stinging nettle is kind of different, so you have to try something out. So yeah, we already have got one here. So I'm gonna cut this also in two. This way we can perhaps make a good long rope, but I'm not that sure about it. Just makes it easier to split them. There are usually 4 parts that will split very easily. This is yet again one of those fibers. So you're gonna need a lot of stinging nettles to make a rope, a decent big rope. But for smaller things like making a makeshift shelter, it will usually be sufficient. I'll cut these a little bit open. I will make it into four parts. It will be sufficient for my makeshift shelter. Alright. So, what you want to do now is, now we have this, as you can see, these are the fibers of the stinging nettle. It's not that necessary, but if a rope out of made of stinging nettles will not digest, but it will rot quicker away. So you will need to replace it often, but you can take it, let it a little bit longer, let it stay a little bit longer by scraping off the green parts. So it does not need that much. You just scrape it carefully of it, and that way you can also scrape off the segments that you see now and then, and that way that's will make the cordage a little bit smoother. But as you can see, there is a little bit chance that the rope will tear off. Alright, that is one of those fibers of the stinging nettle. You can test them out by going around your finger. That way you can already use it as a sort of cordage, but you can also try to make it stronger by putting more fibers of it into one cordage. I'm gonna try to take this part. That's okay. First testing this one. Yep, it's a good one. There are 2 ways you can do this. You can just take the cordage that you have and you bend it like in a U shape, and that way you twist the material around. Let the fibers. As you can see, this is kind of a rope cordage, and on the end you can knot it together, or you can intertwine other parts of other parts of the stinging nettle. Yet again, knot it together, intertwine it, and that way, in theory, you can make a rope out of stinging nettle as long as you are able to do it. You can make one of these stronger by putting in 4 to perhaps even 5 of these fibers into one rope, so it will be more able to have more strength if you twist it together with this. But for the moment, this, as you perhaps can see, is already a good cordage for a stinging nettle. So yeah, like you can see, you can at the end of the rainbow, you can take the end over here, twist it, and now we have a piece of rope made out of stinging nettle that will be a little bit stronger. So yeah, you can do how much you can use as much as you want for intertwine it with other stinging nettle rope to make it as long as possible. So now we're going to make nettle tea, and that way we can do. We are going to talk about two more parts about the stinging nettle. First, the nutritional values, and the second will be the medicinal values. So next shot pew. So while the nettle tea is boiling, I'm going to talk about the nutritional values. So what as nutritional values goes, the stinging nettle is just perfect. Imagine when you're a prepper, most preppers they stock up. Right, most preppers stock on uh, foods like that have many calories, but perhaps less nutritional things like rice, beans, corn, potatoes. Those things, potatoes are actually very good, but they lack in certain vitamins, certain types of food. So if you have a big stockpile, you can still forage for some food for just additional vitamins. Stinging nettles are perfect for this because they contain vitamin A, C, especially C, D, magnesium, iron. So that's also a very good medicinal for. We'll talk about that later. But you can also use it as a substitute for how do you say spinach, and you can not only make tea from it. You can also put it into other foods, like you can make soups out of it. You just mix 250 grams of stinging nettles together with something like bouillon, pieces of potatoes, and you just boil it, and that's way you have a very nutritional piece of soup. So yeah, nutrition on the nutritional front, not only during a bug in, if you're going to forage in your area, but also during a bug out, because in a long-term bug out situation, you will need some vitamins. It's very hard to get those nutrients if you only have if you can only pack certain food groups that will consist out of only calories. So yeah, that's the. Now we're going to taste stinging nettle in a minute when it's ready. You know what? While it's boiling, I'm going to tell now about the medicinal parts, the medicinal benefits of stinging nettles. The first one is inflammatory. How do you say this? Inflammatory properties it has. This can be achieved by drinking the nettle tea, of course, and yeah, it's just like garlic. It's a natural way to get more or inflammatory properties inside of your body by eating the tea. It's yeah, immune boost. It's how do you say this? I forgot it. Pain. It's also a kind of a pain reliever, but yeah, even if that's not working, if you say somebody to that it will work, the placebo effect will be half of the medicinal working at least. But this is proven and it's been used throughout the world in for ages. The stinging nettle for those kind of things. If you're gonna make nettle tea out of it, it's also good for skin or conditions where there's skin irritation, like how do you say this? Eczema, acne, just regular skin irritation, and you can achieve this by doing two things. Or you're going to drink the nettle tea while it's hot, which makes it better, and that way you can get it inside of your body, and that will relieve some skin irritation. Or you wait for the tea to cool off, and then you rub it over the part of the skin that is irritated, and that should also help with skin irritation and other skin conditions. It will not heal it, but it will relieve pain, irritation, and yeah, like I said, anti-inflammatory properties, and that can help. Another thing, if you drink nettle tea, is it's help prevents kidney stones, but that's also because you drink more water. But it has been proven in studies that it prevents, in a way, kidney stones. So that's handy in a shit hit the fan situation. It can also help with healing. I say help, by the way, healing urinary infections. So that's also one of the properties. Like I said, the immune system boost. It can soothe and relieve allergies like hay fever. So that's something I'm trying out with my girlfriend at the moment. She has hay fever and she's going to drink a whole week of tea to test it out. And so far it seems good. So yeah. So yeah, it's because the properties will help you to get a little bit. It's like a vaccine. So because you drink a little bit of the pollen, you will build up a small immunity against hay fever in the beginning of the season. And it is more helpful because it's a local plant, so it will help build a little bit of immunity for local hay fever. I say it will relieve symptoms and it will soothe it, but it will not heal it. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but these are the things that people have been using for ages, and it will lower blood pressure. So that's also a good alternative when you cannot take medicine. It's too expensive to get medicine, or you just need some medication during a shit hit the fan situation or a long-term bug out situation where you need to get your own medicine and herbal medicine from foraging. Muscle stiffness is also helpful against it, and some aches that you might have. So, like I said, it has pain relief properties. So yeah, those are the medicinal properties of stinging nettles that I already know. But if there is anyone in the comment who can leave in the comments some other properties on medicinal ways for the stinging nettle, let me know. I'm always intrigued and to try it out with people who might have this or this condition. So yeah, now those were the 3 topics of the stinging nettles that I was going to show, and now it's only waiting for the tea. So I will let to give you my take on how it will look or taste, or what you can do when it's ready to make it a little bit more tastefuler. So yeah, we'll see that in the next clip. So the nettle tea is ready. All we have to do now is get the leaves out. You can see you can use this to put on your compost heap or something. So that it's not that big of a loss. Get them all out. By the way, the leaves that you boil, don't worry about those stinging you. When you boil the leaves of stinging nettles, they dissolve, so there is no. You do not be afraid to touch those. Those will not sting anymore. From far as I know, in case somebody forgot something. So perhaps if you it has a nice tea yellow color. So yeah, I'm kind of happy with this. So let's go for a little taste. One thing I always like to do is, if I'm gonna make tea, I'm gonna put a little bit of honey in my cup, because honey, like you probably saw in my previous video, has some medicinal and tasty properties. So this little drop would fall in. So whilst the tea is cooling down, I should have brought a spoon. There we go. Pour in some tea. Yeah, it's still kind of hot, so very good. It's actually something like green tea, so it's not as bad as, like, let's say, pine oak tree. So that's hell of a good improvement in contrary to that. Ugh. So if I think back to that taste, then this is just like candy. All right. So what you can do to make the tea to last longer is, I would say, uh, take leaves of the stinging nettle, ground them, dry them, and you can keep them in closed jars for in the winter or for during a bug out. So you always have some vitamin C, A, and D at hand, especially when you have to bug in for a long time. That could be handy as if when you like live in an apartment or something. So yeah, nettle tea is really good actually. I tasted it a few times before, but it amazed me every time how good it tastes, in contrary to other things that I tried so far. So yeah, this is a keeper, and it's something that I will keep in my survival planning. So that's just another something that I can do to improve my life, my health, my survival plans, my so yeah, I would say cheers, subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you got any other good properties of stinging nettles that I did not mention, please leave it in the comments. I'm always willing to learn and try out new things that I perhaps did not know or did not find yet. And yeah, leave a like and all that good stuff. So see you in the next video. Cheers!